up, world? Music, culture, and politics. Oh, say the dark secret. And as we all know, a lot can take place in the course of 7 days, and it certainly has. So let's jump right into it. I want to welcome everybody to MCP 101. So 2020 has been a very interesting year, to say the least. We are now formally in the month of June, and 6 months, a lot happened. So Kobe Bryant died on January 26th, and since that time, we have gone into a global pandemic as well as nationwide protests in the wake of George Floyd's death, as well as the deaths of many unarmed people of color right here in America. And the streets are definitely talking, and they're reacting at the same time. It's almost chaos when you look across the country and see what's happening. Minneapolis is under siege right now, and recently they just had an incident that took place, and it's very reminiscent of the LA riots surrounding the Rodney King verdict. A gentleman was driving an 18-wheeler and drove it down. It was Route 35, I believe, in Minneapolis, which is a busy highway, and it was packed with people, and they started to disperse. And as the scene unfolds, you see this big tanker coming through and people clearing the way. Now, what you're seeing is a direct response and reaction to many of the deaths of many unarmed people of color right here in the United States. And when I say the world is watching, the world is definitely watching. One of the tweets that I thought was very, very, very interesting came from Bernice King, Dr. Bernice King, who is the daughter of the Reverend Martin Luther King. And she said this, and it was very telling. She said, "Don't act like everyone loved my father. He was assassinated. A 1967 poll reflected that he was one of the most hated men in America. Most hated. Many who quote him now and evoke him to deter justice today would likely hate and may already hate the authentic King." Now that says a whole lot in terms of her own interpretation or perception of what it's like to walk or march for civil rights in 2020, which many people feel as if they are doing. Now, when you look at New York City came out in mass over the last few days just because of their reaction to what has happened. And certainly no social distancing taking place. No one is concerned about the coronavirus or COVID-19, although you do see many people wearing masks, and in some interpretations, that may really be a problem. Now, when you think about it, a lot of this has to do with the fact that you have groups on the left as well as on the right. You have leftists and the anti-fascist movement, or Antifa, and on the right, you have white nationalists. Now, there is speculation that there are Antifa protesters who are disrupting the peaceful protests that are taking place and are really a distraction. Now, when you look at all the looting that is going on across the country, I mean, many stores are being looted. And one of the things that I find interesting in this particular instance, especially when you're looking at cities that don't reflect the minority population, such as Portland, Oregon, you see a lot of white looters. Some of the reactions that we've been seeing in many cities, including Atlanta, Georgia, are taking place across the country, and there is some violent rioting taking place. So on a personal note, when I see all of these individuals coming out to protest the way that they are, it just seems like every day there are more and more people who are joining individuals in the streets and taking to the streets to protest what they consider to be unjust treatment of many people of color at the hands of the police. Now, we know that policing is not going to go away, so we know that there's going to have to be a significant amount of change in terms of how we as a society deal with our police force and what our reactions are moving forward. So you have many celebrities who are now really utilizing their voice in a major way, stepping up to the plate. Beyonce and Jay-Z, you have Nick Cannon, Meek Mill, J. Cole, who has been on the front lines for quite some time. So just understanding it for what it is, music has always kind of been the soundtrack to many of the societal issues that are going on. And what is one of the top songs trending at this particular moment in history? Well, it's Childish Gambino's "This Is America." I saw that it was trending before I actually was able to bear witness to somebody vibing to that song in the car next to me. And I thought that that was very interesting. And it just speaks volumes comes to where the country is. Many people saying it's reminiscent of 1968. There's a Time magazine cover that is very, I would say, historic, or is going to go down in history, and it speaks to 1968, and it says what has changed, and apparently many people feel like not much. This peaceful protest, or the peaceful protests that are taking place here in America, are certainly being watched everywhere in the world, and many people feel like you have a lot of agitators who are coming in to kind of take away from what is going on. We know that this is a political year. Donald Trump has made some comments or sent some tweets that many people find disturbing. One of those being that when the looting starts, the shooting starts, and this is attributed to a segregationist sheriff in Miami during the riots during that time in 1968. Now, most recently in Dallas, the Dallas Police Department is asking individuals to report illegal activity. They have an app called iWatch Dallas. Now, this app is now down due to technical difficulties. The reason why? It appears that the app was flooded with material from K-pop artists. So when they asked individuals to submit illegal activity, they were flooded with a bunch of images. I mean, thousands and thousands of images, photos, videos, and text tips about K-pop artists. I don't know how this is being done, but apparently at this time that app is now down. And Dallas was also the scene of a number of protests and looters at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see how this continues to unfold. As I said earlier, we don't see it going away at any time in the near future. Another note that you should make is that protests are starting to happen in the country of New Zealand in the wake of George Floyd's death. So his name, his hashtag is certainly trending in a global capacity, and it'll be interesting to see what comes next. But we will do our best to keep you posted on everything. We want to say thank you for joining us here on MCP 101.